Up next on the bench, your eyes do not deceive you. It's a Pioneer SX 1980. I'll be honest with you, I'm completely shocked that I'm working on one of these. You know, I've come across several 1050s, 1250s, larger Sansuis. I never thought that I would have an occasion to mess around with a Pioneer SX 1980, but here is a Pioneer SX 1980. Stella, you don't need to go in the house right now. Come here. The second I start talking, the neighbor starts mowing and the dog wants to go in the house. It never fails. It's amazing. So here's what I'm going to do with this video. I'm going to do a couple of things. So the shop owner from 402 Vinyl picked this up. He actually demoed it, or the previous owner demoed it to him before he bought it. So it has been powered on. It is making noise. It's in very good condition. So I don't have an issue running this outside of the dim bulb tester. So that's what I'm going to do once I get this connected. What I'm going to do, what I intend to do with this video, and there will be a review video of this receiver as well. I may just do it from the garage and not from the basement, because this is one beastly heavy receiver that I don't think I want to lug up and down my stairs. My goal with this, or my intent with this video, is to kind of do this intake, test everything out on it, talk about what I know about this receiver, because I have never worked on one of these. Make sure everything is functioning, all the lights are working, probably a basic control cleaning. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about DC offset and bias and any other factory service manual recommended adjustments. And I'll go through that process, and then we'll talk about what we find when we do that. My goal with this is to hopefully clean the controls, verify that DC offset and bias are good, and then clean this up a little bit and get it to the shop. I really don't want to have to work on one of these. I do not want to recap it. I don't want to repair anything. So hopefully this is as good as promised. So what I'm going to do now is first put my dog in the house, because she's going to be obnoxious and annoying if I don't. And then I will come back and I'll plug speakers into this, and we will give it a whirl and see what we got. All right, so first let's kind of make sure everything's going to be good on this. Volume is down. It almost looked like that was an indicator on that. Yeah, knobs are dirty, so this is going to need a cosmetic cleaning. Looks like the previous owner, they were running it through a couple sets of speakers. I think when the shop owner picked it up, he said he was running it through some Bose 601s and some Electro Voice or something like that. So it's speaker A, and put it on FM. So I've got an antenna connected. Now, soft start circuit, might hear a couple of clicks. I want to count the amount of time, the number of seconds it takes to go out of protection, right? Just kind of get an idea. But volume's down. Speaker A, let's give it a whirl. Okay, about 9 seconds. 9 seconds. Looks like we have speaker A light is illuminated, AM light is good, auxiliary light is good, phono 2, phono 1. Let's see. No indicators for tape. Looks like we do have stereo light. I'll tune it to a station that I know is good. 99.9 here is a pretty good station to tune to. They normally get pretty good reception. Let's see. Not getting any sound. Oh, adapter on. Okay. You're getting this real time. There we go. Okay, don't want to do too much of that. Balance. Okay. All All right, so we have sound. Looks like we're tuning in a station on FM, so that's good. I'll have to check it out. I'm going to go through all of the inputs and make sure that they're all good. I'm probably not going to do that on camera. Let's see, that's fine tune. Let me get to another station that's good. All right. Okay, there we go. That station's a little bit better. So at least we have sound, so that's good. I think what I'm going to do now is off camera, I'm going to continue going through the inputs on this. I'm going to move the camera up top. I don't think any, looks like all the lamps are working. Just looking at everything here. So the lamps are working. I'm going to go run through the inputs. I'll move the camera up top and then we'll take a look at this from the top side. I'm not familiar with how to get in and clean these controls, but we'll give it a look and figure it out. All right, well, this thing is so ginormous I can't even fit it all into frame here. But here's what I have discovered. So we've got some dirty controls, which I kind of assumed would be there. But I'm going to turn this on, and I want you to give a listen. Hopefully this will come across. But this is on phono 1. So let's see. Come out of protection. I don't know if you can hear that popping. So we've got, and it was a lot worse. The longer I leave it on, the more it'll start popping and making noises. Failing transistors, capacitors, something like that in the phono section. It does it on phono 1 and 2. So that'll have to be addressed. So we are going to have to go in and do a little bit of work to this. I'm not doing it today, so it'll be done over the course of a few days, maybe a week or so. And then we'll get into all the adjustment stuff. Somebody really enjoyed cigarettes around this, which is unfortunate. This thing stinks. I mean, it's very, 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 yeah. I think I'm gonna have probably a layer of nicotine I got to pull off of this. Although it doesn't look that bad, but I can smell the cigarette smoke. So our work is cut out for us on this SX 1980. So that's gonna wrap it up for today. I'm just gonna do one long video on this, just for the heck of it. So I'll pick it up when we start working on the phono board. All right, so soldering iron is warming up, the soldering tool, and we're gonna look at that phono board and see if we can sort out the popping. What I did was I watched a couple of videos yesterday, because you know, this 1980 is something special, and as it is my first one that I've worked on, I want to be sure that I do as much research as I can on it. And these are full of problem transistors, 2SA726s. And it's likely that is causing the popping that we're hearing on the phono, on the left channel. So what I did was, when I was kind of chilling out yesterday, I went to YouTube, and I remember X-Ray Tony B, his channel, he had a 1980 that he had worked on. And, well, it looks like I probably have to go in from the top. Let's see, I think that might be phono. But anyway, he was working on one, and I went right to the portion of the video where he was talking about the phono board, and I assume that's the phono. I didn't see where he actually pulled the board from, but he was talking about transistors with a little blue dot on it. And I was like, well, what is he talking about? He referenced another part of the video, so I went to an earlier segment where he was discussing what the blue dot on those transistors mean, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it was just something to be aware of that I would not have even considered had I not watched his video. So once I pull the board out and we look at the transistors that are in question, I will talk about that. Man, this thing just reeks of cigarette smoke. It's pretty disgusting. While I have the bottom off, though, let's just poke around and take a look at what we have going on. So, looks like we've had some work. Somebody's done some work in here. One of these two, probably, I'm thinking this one has been replaced, maybe? I don't know, or maybe both of these transistors have been replaced. We have two different, you have an MJE 305 Morocco is the brand. Here we have a Mitsubishi B682. I'll have to pull down a service manual and see what's supposed to be in there. We have some 2SC945s. Yeah, I think there's been some work. Some work has been done to this. We have a little bit of heat stress on that cap there. It looks like these look like original transistors. So someone has been in here during its lifetime, which is always something you go into one of these and you when you see that, you're kind of like, ugh. Maybe these were the best substitutes at the time. Maybe they're not ideal. Maybe they're going to cause problems later on down the road. You don't know, right? We've got some, again, heat stress there. I think that's just some glue for that transistor, for that capacitor there. Looks like maybe that capacitor has been replaced. That looks like a new capacitor. So yeah, it looks like some work has been done in here, most likely. Again, it's one of those things where not necessarily a bad thing, but did they do it right? Did they put the right parts in here? Let's take a look at this board, see if it is the phono board. I probably need to pull down a copy of the service manual. Looks like got two more screws here. That might actually not be. Let's see, trace these wires. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's phono. Trace the wires back to where the phono selector buttons are. There may be some more screws holding that in that I may have to get to from the top. Oh, they're on the bottom. Can we get in there? There's a screw underneath here that I think I can access, that I believe is holding that in position. I really don't want to have to go in from the top. I had gallbladder surgery not long ago, and I don't mind moving lighter things around, but this is not a lighter thing to move around. So I want to reposition it as little as I need. But I think I can get, I think I can get this screwed out here. There we go. So close. Looks like we have one on each side. Well, I'm not going to make you suffer through this. What I'll do is, let me get the one out. My gosh, this thing stinks so bad. There's one screw. Well, I'm probably going to have to fight with this other one. It's in a little bit of a worse position. So let me speed through that real quick and pull this board out. All right, well, it took me a little bit longer than I had anticipated because I did not see a third screw that was holding that in position. So, all right, so here's the phono board. Let's see if I can zoom in just a little bit here. Again, this thing is so big, I'm not going to be able to get in real close on this. All right, so the transistors that we are interested in or concerned about are the transistors with the little blue dot. These are 2SA726s, and this is what Tony points out in his video, and why they are significant and why we have to pay attention to those dots. So these have a minimum gain in the circuit, right? And Tony goes into a lot of detail. He pulls them out, he measures them. And when Tony tested these, it was a gain of it was like 458, right? Now, common replacement for this is a KSA 992 when you're talking about replacing a 2SA 726. You have different flavors of KSA 992s, right? What Tony does in his video is he actually takes one of these out and then he puts it on something called a curve tracer, which I don't have a curve tracer, but he compares the 2SA 726 to two different KSA 992s, an FCE and an FCF. Now, they don't produce those particular variants anymore. Now it's FBU and FTA or something like that. But what he does is he compares the two different KSA 992s, and you can see how, even though the gain may be high enough for the circuit, the gain curve, right, there's a better match if you choose a different variation of KSA 992. Now, there's no information on this anywhere on the internet, so unfortunately I'm going to replace these with the KSA 992s that I have. If I find some information out and there's a better substitute, right, for these two transistors with the blue dots, I'll include that in the video. But I looked this morning for probably 20-30 minutes, poured over Audio Karma, and again, I just don't have the equipment to do a direct comparison between the two, and I could not find what the KSA 992 FCE became, right, or the FCF is what he used, what that became. Is it the YBA or YTU or whatever, right, whatever nomenclature they're using nowadays, because that video is, I think, probably 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 years old. So anyway, it looks like, I mean, just looking at the board, I'm going to recap it while it's out. The caps don't appear to be in too bad a shape. Not a lot to replace here. We've got 2SA 872s. I think those are fine. 2SC 1919. I think those are fine to leave in there. I'll have to make sure that those aren't on the replaced list. And we have 2SC 17. Looks like a 1715. So again, what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll check all of those just to be sure that none of those are on the definitely replaced list. The only one I'm concerned with is the 2SC 1919. I think those are fine though. But again, we've got, a dozen caps and then the two transistors, so I'm going to replace those. Before I go to do that though, I'm going to have to pull up the bad transistor list. Power on my PC here. And make sure that I don't, because while I have it out, I mean, that wasn't too difficult to get out of there, but while I have it out, I might as well replace the other stuff. I haven't talked to the shop owner yet, but I told him I wasn't going to get into this until, this weekend and look it over. But, there are some concerning things in here that I want to address, or at least talk to him about. See what he wants to do. Yeah, it looks like we have a replaced resistor. I don't know if you can see the heat stress on the board. That resistor does not appear to be, it looks to me like that's probably a replacement. I know you can't see it, it's underneath this shroud, but it looks out of place. I mean, it seems to operate fine, turns on fine, but again, you never know. You never know what was going on with this in a previous life. So let me check into these transistors, and then I will probably just pick it up with me recapping and replacing those transistors. Now the KSA 992s are going to have a different orientation. They're polar opposite of these 726s. So you have to keep that in mind when you're replacing those. Let me do some research, and I'll pick it back up when I'm ready to recap this. So what I'm going to do is, just for the heck of it, I'm going to look and see how these transistors test. So I don't know how this is laid out, which is right or left. Let's see. Yeah, I don't... this is right, this is left, I believe. So this would be the right channel transistor if my orientation is correct. And again, we may not be able to really determine anything. This cheap little tester is not, it's good for some of the basics, but so we've got 536 gain for what I believe was the right channel. And we have 538 gain. And again, I am assuming that these were the problem component. What I may do is I may just test this real quick, because again, this board was easier to get out of there than I thought. Because I'd like to know if that eliminated the popping. I mean, it could also be a capacitor. Yeah, I think I want to do that. I think I want to make sure that was good before I go on to do anything else. So let me put this back together and give that a test real quick. See where we're at. Well, on second thought, yeah, no, I'm going to do that. All right, so that did not resolve the popping issue. So, and I only noticed it on phono. What I may do next, well, and the problem is you power it on, it doesn't, it's kind of erratic. So what I believe I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull these 4 caps, test them, then I'll do these 4 caps, the blue caps, and then I'll do the 2 orange. So I'm going to kind of divide this up. This cap is, the shrink is a little, it's not bulging, but it does almost feel like it's a little bit misshapen. But I don't know that that means anything on this. Oh, and look at that. We've got something that I did not notice. Let's look at this real quick. I don't know if I can get in and show you. Probably not. We have a resistor here that's looking pretty toasty. That resistor right there is pretty sketchy. So I don't know if you can see that well. So we have the resistor there. That lighting's better there. We have this resistor. This one looks clean. This one looks, and that one looks a little sketchy. So that could definitely cause an issue. So it looks like there may be more work to this board than I had anticipated. So what I'm going to do is I'll do these 4 caps and test them. And then when I do these 2, I'm going to pull that resistor. I'm going to check these 2, but that does not, that's going to need to come out. Figure out what's going on with that. Oh my gosh, the nicotine from this thing is just so strong. All right, on to pulling those caps. I'm going to zoom back out and speed through this. All right, let's see what's going on with these caps. And again, I'm trying to see if I can identify one of these being bad. So these should be the right channel caps. These are 100 microfarads, that's 95. And here are the left channel. And this is the one that was kind of looking a little sketchy. Huh, 93. So I think these were probably okay. I mean, they're out of 10%. I mean, 89. So probably a good thing we change those out. All right, so let's move on to, still don't like that resistor there. So we'll do these two. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to test them off camera. I'm not going to take you through me testing all of these caps. I'll test the caps off camera. If something crazy pops up, I'll let you know. They're probably all going to be around the same, 10%-ish off, I would imagine. Unless I have one that's open, which I don't think I do. But again, that resistor there is concerning. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to place an order to Mauser. We've got two 2200 microfarad 10 volt caps here. I have some 2200s, but they're too large to go in here. Plus, they're mismatched. I've got a 35 and a 50. So I'm going to have to place an order for those. Those tested fine. I mean, they were out of spec. They were both at about, these two tested fine. They're at about 250. They're supposed to be 220 microfarad. So I'm going to continue replacing these two caps, and then I may just power it on to see, but I'm pretty sure unless one of these caps is open or it's way out of whack, yeah, I don't believe that they're probably going to be the issue, but you never know. So I'm going to do those, and then I'm going to have to set it aside until I get the new caps in. So it'll just have to sit here on my bench, grinding everything else to a halt because I'm not moving this thing. All right, so let's take care of these, and what I'll do is I'll speed through this and then I'll pick it up once I get the new caps in. Well, I thought I was going to be able to, maybe I still can. So replaced all these caps. They all tested fine. I wanted to lift a leg on each one of these resistors, but some of the glue holding the capacitor in place has also bonded the resistor to the board. Because I just wanted to pull these and see what they were. But oh, now I can. Okay. Yeah, so the glue was holding the resistors down. So now I can pull these out of circuit and test them side by side, see what's going on. Let me find my fluke here. Let's see how they test. All right, so what would be the right channel? $3K? I'll have to look at the schematic and see what it's supposed to be. 3K. And this one is 3K. So what I'm wondering is if the markings on this resistor are from the glue, which it kind of looks like. It doesn't look like it's probably burned. But I think I'm gonna pull them anyway and replace them. So I'm gonna pull the service manual down and make sure I got the right values. See what's supposed to be in that circuit right there. So I'll do that off camera. I should have some replacements, and I'll replace those two resistors. So I lifted both legs, and as I did, I noticed that the one that was looking as though it was suffering from some heat stress, looks like you got to touch up a solder joint there, has a broken solder joint. It's loose. There's a ring. I know you can't see it and I can't really zoom in, but I can move the resistor and there's a crack in the solder joint. So I wonder if that was causing that problem. That would totally make sense. So I'm going to remove that one. And the service manual says 6.2 in this position, but these are 3 as measured, and when I look at the banding, it's 3K. So. And that's why it's always good to double check. Make sure you're doing it right. So I wonder if I can get that goofy thing out of there. I wonder if that was causing the popping. Oh, I just poked myself. Yeah, if you look at this, I think it's just the glue that's causing that dark. And I think the glue is what's cracked. But the resistors are cheap. I verified these were good. So we'll put this one in its position. Orange, black, red, gold. Yep, that's it. I'm going to leave the old one in here. I could put a new one in, but and again, I'm sure that that one was probably fine, but resistors are cheap, so. Okay, so that one's through, this one's in. I bet that was it. You know, and with bad transistors in here, it's pretty easy to go jump right to, okay, it's got to be a bad transistor. Because that's kind of what they do. Pop and stuff like that. Oh, and I also wanted to touch up. I got one solder joint there that's a little off. And I'm going to check all of these. And these traces were really, really kind of easy to pull off. I pulled a couple of them just came off with the desoldering tool. So what I'll do is I'm just going to look at this off camera, make sure I don't have any other ones, but I'm wondering if that was the problem. I did leave that one raised a little bit off the board. Guess I could have put it down a little bit further, but I can always fix that later on. So I think what I'm going to do now is put this back in and test it and see if I get that popping. Hopefully not. All right, so I tested it and that appears to have resolved the popping. But what I noticed yesterday was if this thing got warm at all, then the popping would be kind of intermittent. And, you know, if you think about it naturally, as it heats up, cools down, it's going to act that way. I did put these little push things in backwards, so I'm going to get these straightened out. I will have to order some, like I mentioned earlier, some 2200 microfarad caps and replace those too, and then this board will be done. I need to figure out with the shop owner how far he wants to go with this. If he, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to do a full recap on this, personally, because that's just it's a pretty big job. So we'll see what he wants to do though. And what will also kind of dictate what I do in addition to, we're still working, recapping the phono board is how this looks when I go to set the DC offset and bias. Right, if those are way out, and I don't even want to set it because the trim pots are known to go bad on these. I just want to see how far off it is. But, you know, you pull the amplifier board, you might as well just recap them if you're going to change trim pots, or, you know, if you can't get it to bias, right? So it's one of those things where we will see where that leads us. So what I'm going to do is finish buttoning this up, putting this together, and I'm going to call it a day on the 1980. I do, like I said, need to order those caps. And today's the 4th of July, so we'll see how long it takes to get those in. You're probably not seeing this until sometime in the fall, maybe winter. The review I may move up in the schedule, but we'll just have to see. All right, so get a couple more of these in there. Looks like I've got a screw that I have an unaccounted for screw. I know I took them. Oh, there it is. Just thinking out loud, verbally processing. All right. Oh, you know what? I'll probably have to do. Oh, I'll take that out again. All right. I'm not going to torch you anymore with this, so we'll just pick it up when I go on to the next step, or when I get the caps in. I don't know if I'll film that. I'm just going to pull this back out. In fact, I should probably just leave this until I get those caps in. I think that's what I'm going to opt to do instead. So anyway, I will pick it back up with replacing caps, or whatever I decide to do next. All right, well, look who's back. The Pioneer SX 1980. Woohoo! I love it when stuff comes back. I actually hate it when stuff comes back. My goal is to never see a piece of equipment twice if I can help it. So here's what's going on with this. I'm just going to turn this up for a second. You're just going to hear the tone. Well, after I serviced the phono board, and you know, this was one of those repairs where I was in and out of it. I think that I tested it completely and everything was working. And when I install a stereo at the shop, I always test phono and auxiliary, you know, whatever inputs I have. This was connected to a turntable. I'm pretty dang positive that this was working. Well, anyway, a week went by, and then one of the channels dropped. And I think it's the left channel that dropped. It could be the right channel that dropped. Well, no, yeah, it's the right channel that dropped. So when I turn this up, and I have it on, right, you're hearing the right channel, and then we get some hum out of the left channel. So I need to trace, right, the signal and see where it is entering and leaving. So first I want to see if, I'm going to have to do this up here, is I want to see if we have two channels leaving the selector board. And here's the weird thing. So when we go between phono 1 and 2, there's a really loud pop. So I'm thinking the phono board is okay, but I think this selector, there's an issue with this selector board. So, or actually it's the board down here. So I can see where phono is coming in or leaving that selector board. So let me just see if I can. So there I have a signal, and that's right channel signal. I'm going to adjust my scope here so I can see it a little more clearly. Sorry, there we go. Okay. All right, so I see a signal for right channel. And let's see if I see a signal for left channel coming into this board. And I do. I see a signal coming in both right and left channels going into my phono. And just to confirm, if I go to phono 2, and phono 2, I'm also dropping a channel. So there must be something on this board. Now, one thing about this board is I was working on it. There were not a lot. There were a few traces that came off of the board, and I thought that I had repaired those. I did kind of a field repair down at the shop. I don't typically like to work on things down there, but I did just check it, and I thought maybe I had a capacitor in backwards. So what I want to do is, so what I did is I swapped one around, but I don't know if I swapped around the correct channel, so I need to see. So right now, left channel's out, right channel is good. No, say I did it again. Left channel is good, right channel is out. This is my left hand. This is the speaker that's working. So left channel good, right channel out. So let's remove this. But what I was getting at with these, let me unplug this, with the traces is that a couple of them broke, and I'm pretty sure that they were good, but that doesn't mean that there's not a broken trace somewhere else. So I'm going to go in and give this a better look. Right. So we've got this channel's good. Right, this channel's good. This channel's bad. Pop these little push pins out of here. Kind of a unique design. But I made sure the transistor was in. It was correctly oriented. Both transistors that I changed. The one capacitor that I was curious about was, so you'll see we have, and again, nothing has changed on this, so what I did in the shop didn't affect anything. So this capacitor here is actually like, some of the boards have a diode here. It's marked a diode, but mine had a capacitor. So I put the capacitor in here oriented with its polarity. It was the same. It was reversed on both channels, and then I thought, well, maybe I had the right one in incorrectly, so I reversed the left. Or I reversed the left, and I still have sound out of the left channel, so that wasn't the problem. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to look at every single thing that I did, confirm orientation for everything, which I already did. I did this down at the shop, but I need to figure out where that signal is dropping, which might be kind of tricky. So I'm going to do that off camera, and I'm going to have to pull down the service manual, look at the circuit diagram to see if I can figure out what the heck might be going on. I could have also created a solder bridge inadvertently when I replaced the caps. but I don't see any evidence of that. And this cap here for the right channel, see the trace lifted a little bit on that one. I know you can't really see it, but trace lifted a little on that one. So anyway, I'm going to troubleshoot this as best I can. I may have to run the signal through this and position this to where I don't cause a short, because that would freaking suck. And just see if I can identify what the issue might be. Because this... yeah, I need to pull down the service manual and see what's going on. Because I see where it comes in, and then I've got to figure out where it goes out of the board. So I got to do a little bit of homework. I'll come back and let you know what I found. All right, I think I may have found it. So let me zoom in here. Remember, like you're not watching the same video. Shoot, I can't get it. But the resistor that we replaced, or I replaced right here, the one on the other side looks like it has failed. So I'm going to replace that one. These were 3 ohm resistors, if I remember right. So I've got to find a 3 ohm. I think I left them out. I think they're around there somewhere. Anyway, I'm going to dig one of those out. I'm going to remove this, test it first, see if I am correct, and I will let you know what I found. Assuming this is bad, I'll come back and pop the new one in and see where that gets us. All right, so I found it, and that resistor was, in fact, oops, in 2 pieces. Well, just imagine. Now, it doesn't look like it suffered any heat stress. What I attempted to do, remember I had to order the caps. These are glued onto the board, and I tried to remove one, and I may have cracked that resistor in the process after I had tested it. But I'm almost positive that it was working when I connected it at the shop. But I'm not saying for sure that was the case. Sometimes I get distracted when I'm putting stuff out. Someone will ask me a question and I'll lose track of what I'm doing. So right now I've got sound on both channels. I'm going to test this, let this play for 30, 45 minutes. I'm going to run not my test signal through. Well, I'll run the test signal through and make sure that I get sound and the sound is clear. Maybe I'll just run a turntable through it. I don't know. But I need to test it long term, make sure it's going to stay stable. So I believe I fixed it. We'll see. If you don't see another part to this, that means that was the problem. If you see me again here in another segment, that means I couldn't figure it out. So I'm going to say it now just in case. If you like what you see, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.